semifinals are coming up next week for American Ninja Warrior, so these are my predictions for what I think is going to happen. I don't know which semifinals groups are going to be running in which episodes, so I'm just going to be naming the races and who I think is going to win, and then the wild cards for each group. So first off, we have Jonah Brown versus Jonas Harmer. Jonas Harmer really seems like a gimmick competitor to me, while Jonah Brown actually impressed me with his qualifying run, so I think Jonah Brown will be moving on. Now we have Daniel Gill versus Ricky Vu. Come on, Daniel Gill got total victory last season, so I think he's gonna be back in Vegas. And then Isaiah Thomas versus Arnold Hernandez. I think Isaiah Thomas is gonna take this one. He's super fast. We have Vance Walker versus Brigham Youngstrom. Vance Walker is probably the best ninja when it comes to just racing in general, so I think Vance Walker will win. Next we have Kyle Soderman versus Francisco Barajas. This is the first race with decent competitors in it, or a decent competitor, but Kyle Soderman is a lot faster. And now we have the first, what I would say, good race. We have Jody Avila versus Nick Hansen. Jody Avila is probably still going to win, but this is going to be an exciting race. And then another exciting race is Karsten Williams versus John Mack. This might be one of the best races of the episode, although John Mack fell on only the fourth obstacle, so I think Karsten Williams is going to be back in Vegas. Now we have Josh Miller versus Sam Folsom. Sam Folsom is probably one of the top five fastest ninjas of all time, so I'm picking him to win this one. And now Grant Cunningham versus Dylan Rubel. When I first saw Dylan Rubel's qualifying run, I didn't expect him to do as well as he did, but I still think Grant's gonna win. Now we have Kyle Schulze versus Jesus Capote. Kyle Schulze got his first buzzer, and I think he's gonna make his first trip to Vegas, first or second, one of the two. Now probably the best race of the whole episode. Josh Salinas versus Carson Voiles. These were the two competitors with the most anticipated comeback, and they're racing each other. But Josh Salinas made it to Jawbreakers way faster than Carson Voiles did, and Josh is way more healthy, so I think he's gonna win. And lastly, Jonah Maningo versus Anthony Porter. I expected Anthony Porter to clear his qualifying course, so I think he's gonna win. Now for the women, we have Isabella Wakeham versus Ishelle Valentino. Isabella Wakeham's one of the best women in the sport, so I think she's gonna win. Next up, we have Karen Potts versus Ali Tippett-Wooten. Karen Potts is pretty fast, so I think she'll win. Next, we have Madeline Medeiros versus Karen Wilton. Madeline hit a buzzer last season in semifinals, and I believe the course this time is a little bit easier, so I think she could get another one. And then finally, we have China Hart versus Megan Johnson. Megan Johnson is Kyle Soderman's wife, I believe, and training with him, a speed demon. She'll probably win. Now I have to pick the two wild cards for this group. The first one I'm gonna pick is gonna be Josh Miller. He had a good qualifying run. He was going pretty fast too, if I remember. He's an 8 seed, so yeah, he was going pretty fast. And the second wild card I'm picking is Carson Voiles, maybe just because I want to see him in Vegas. And then for the safety pass race, I think it's going to be between Vance Walker and Sam Folsom, and I think Sam Folsom's going to get the safety pass. Our next group, our starting race, will be Caleb Bergstrom versus Cal Plahoros. I think Caleb Bergstrom's going to win. They're both pretty fast, but Caleb Bergstrom's just way better. Our next race, probably one of the most iconic ninja duos of like the new generation. Enzo Wilson versus Elijah Browning. If you remember last semifinals, Elijah went fast enough for the safety pass. And Enzo wasn't really going super fast. I don't know if racing against Elijah will push him or whatever, but I think Elijah is gonna win. Next, we have Naxa Garamore versus Lenny Lopez. And Naxa was flying in qualifiers, so he'll win. Now we have David Bergstrom Wright versus Jay Flores. I think David Bergstrom Wright is gonna win. Next, we have Flip Rodriguez versus Ryan Stratus, some old school ninjas here. I think Flip Rodriguez is just more skilled. I mean, like, Ryan Stratus hasn't competed in a while, because, like, if you know, this was filmed last year. Next, we have Owen Dyer versus Steven Sen. Owen Dyer got a qualifying buzzer and was going pretty fast, too, so I think he'll win. Now we have Connor Galvin versus Brandon McWilliams. I feel like Connor Galvin is like a really underrated ninja. Like in like local comps and like even national comps, he does pretty well, so I think he's gonna win. Now we have Alex Nye versus Jeff Loftus. I don't really know much about these two ninjas, but Alex Nye got qualifying buzzer, so I'm predicting he'll win. Now we have Benjamin Drake versus Kyle McCrate. This is a tough one for me. I mean, I like dogs, so I'm a fan of Kyle, but like I think last year Benjamin Drake cleared a really hard qualifying course, so I think he'll probably win. Now we have Julius Ferguson versus Lance Pekas. I feel like they're both about the same skill level, although I think Julius Ferguson is like a little bit faster, so Actually, no. I think Lance Pekas is a bit better. I think he'll win. Now we have Vinny Castronova versus Josiah Singleton. Now, even though Josiah had a breakout season in ANW 14, making it to stage 2, I think Vinny Castronova is much better, and I think he's gonna win. And then finally, we have RJ Roman versus Bob Reese. I don't think anyone really expected RJ to fall in qualifying, and I think he will redeem himself in the semis. For the women in this group, we have Jessie Graff versus Lisa Hare. Jessie Graff got a qualifying buzzer in one of the hardest courses this season, so I think she'll be able to move on to Vegas. Now we have Jaleesa Himka versus Caitlin Bergstrom Wright. Jaleesa Himka is one of the top women in the sport, and I feel like is pretty underrated. Like, she beat Jessie Graff last year, so I think she'll be able to beat Caitlin Bergstrom Wright. Now we have Anna MacArthur versus Megan Budway. I think Anna MacArthur's gonna win. I feel like this one can kind of be a toss-up. Now we have Jen Sanders versus Janique Levette. I think this is Jen's like first year, and Janique has been competing for quite a while, so I think she'll take this one. Alright, time to pick wild cards for the Florida group. I feel like my first one, and probably the most obvious, is Enzo. I mean, he's really, really good. Like, go look up at like his Instagram or something. There's like he does like flyaways and stuff. It's crazy. And the second one was tough because there's a lot of good contenders like Ryan Stratus or Josiah Singleton or Bob Reese, but I chose Cal Plahoros just because he's really fast, and as long as he doesn't like make a dumb mistake anywhere, I feel like he's probably got a good shot at moving on. Now for the safety pass, I feel like this race will be between RJ Roman and Caleb Bergstrom. RJ Roman flew through the course in his safety pass race last season, so I think he'll get the safety pass for the second year in a row. We're halfway done, and we're on to the second half of the semifinals matchup. And for our first one. In the second half, we got Kai Beckstrand versus Jesse Maurer. Kai Beckstrand is, in my opinion, he's the best speed athlete. When I have to pick a bet on a first place on a speed course, I always go Kai, even like outside of American Ninja Warrior. Now we have Levi Enright versus Tyler Yamauchi. I feel like Levi Enright is a lot faster, and Tyler isn't. He doesn't really seem up to it this year, if you know what I mean. Like, he almost didn't move on to the semis. If runoffs weren't a thing, he wouldn't even be in the semis. Now we have Jackson Twait versus Marquez Green. Jackson Twait he completed the course under the time limit on probably the slowest course ever. Like, there are only 3 people to do it this time. And now we have Caden Lebsack versus Eric Middleton. Caden Lebsack is like a really underrated speed athlete. He's most known for burnout, but he's fast and he's really good. Now we have Chris Behrens versus Glenn Albright. Chris Behrens is a lot stronger, so I think he'll win. Now we have Austin Gray versus Barry Boyd, and Barry Boyd had like a pretty good rookie debut last season, but he's nowhere near the skill level of Austin Gray. Now we have Donovan Metoyer versus Scott Behrens. Donovan had an early exit last season, and last season I think Scott had his best season ever, but I still think Donovan is overall a better athlete. Now we have Ben Behrens versus Colton Scooster. Ben Behrens made it to stage 2 last season and hit a buzzer in qualifying, so I really feel like he'll win. Now we have Luke Beckstrand versus Drew Nestor. If I hadn't watched as much NSC, I'd actually pick Drew Nestor, but because I actually watch other leagues outside of the show, I'm picking Luke Beckstrand, because like, he's improved a lot since ANW Junior. Now we have Cam Baumgartner versus Ethan Gardulski. Cam Baumgartner's nickname is the Bomb, and like, that kind of shows how like explosive he is and stuff. Anyways, we have Max Feinberg versus David Tomasoni. I think Max Feinberg is gonna win that one. Not really much to say. And then Mike Salenzi versus Nathan Green. Mike has been like really consistent like these past few years, so I think he's gonna take this one. For the women, we have Taylor Green versus Judith Carroll. Taylor Green is the best female athlete in Ninja, period. So I'm picking her. And then we have Emily Keener versus Violet K-Po-O. I feel like Violet is like better on courses overall, but like Emily is just a faster ninja, so I feel like this could be the first time where like both women clear the head-to-head course. Sorry. Now we have Riley Porter versus Annabella Heinrichs. Riley made it to the 5th obstacle, I think, which is pretty good, so I think she'll win. Now we have Maddie Howard versus Jalen Bennett. I don't think Jalen has put on as strong of performances as Maddie has, so I'm picking Maddie. Now, I'm actually going to be picking 3 wild cards because I would have picked, one of my wild cards would have been Tyler Yamauchi, but he had to miss out on Vegas because of one of his, I don't remember if it was dad or grandpa having like health issues, so he decided to miss it, and because the seasons were filmed back to back, I'm pretty sure he would have missed the ANW 16 filming. So with that, the 2 wild cards I'm picking, like not including him, are Drew Nestor and Ethan Gardulski. Even though they were lower seeds, they still hit buzzers, and I feel like they are capable of making it to Vegas. For the safety pass race, I think it will be a rematch between Kai Beckstrand and Caden Lebsack, but I think the results will be different, where Kai Beckstrand is actually the one that wins. Now with our final semifinal, this first matchup is Matt Bradley versus Vincent Payne. Matt Bradley, the past 2 seasons he's competed, he got the fastest time out of all the qualifiers, not just his qualifier. So I think he's gonna win. Josiah Papel versus Guang Sui. Josiah Papel has made it to stage 4, so no brainer. Noah Munier versus John Uga. I'm picking Noah Munier for the same reason as Josiah Papel. Now we have a good race, Jay Lewis versus Jamie Ron. Jay Lewis is much better though, so I think he's gonna win. Now we have Joe Moravsky versus David Fleming. I feel like Joe Moravsky is like one of the fastest ninjas out there. He's probably the fastest over 30 ninja, I think. It'd be embarrassing if he wasn't that old. Now we have the race I'm most looking forward to, Sean Bryan versus David Campbell. Both of these ninjas are incredibly talented and have had very big accomplishments, but I think Sean Bryan's gonna win because he got a qualifying buzzer and was really fast weeks. So now we have Kevin Rodriguez versus Verdale Benson. Kevin Rodriguez is, I think he's going to be a rising star on the show. He just, last year wasn't his year, even though they were filmed back to back. Anyways, James Sinella versus Gavin Obi. James Sinella had an impressive run in ANW 14, so I think that will continue into this season. Now we have Joe Meisner versus James McGrath. I feel like a lot of people don't really know who Joe Meisner is, but he's really talented, and I think he's talented enough to beat James. Now we have Ramses Valdez versus Brandon Singletary. Last season in the semifinals, Ramses destroyed Luke Dillon up until Slingshot, so I think, so we know he's really fast, so I think he's gonna win. Now we have Jacob Arnstein versus Noah Buskor. I hope I pronounced that right. I think Jacob Arnstein's gonna win this one. And then for our final race, Xavier Danzler versus Najee Richardson. I think Najee's gonna take this one because even though Xavier got a buzzer, I don't know if he's quite at the level of Najee. Now for the women, we have Abby Clark versus JoJo Grubasic. Abby Clark got her first of a buzzer in a very long time, so I think Abby Clark will win. Now we have Casey Rothschild versus Sydney Yee. Casey has hit 2 qualifying buzzers. Sydney hasn't though, so I think Casey's gonna win. Now we have Taylor Johnson versus Emily Gardner. This race could go either way, but I think I feel like Taylor Johnson has a better shot. Now for our final race, we have Addie Herman versus Brittany Durant. They actually raced last season, and Addie Herman won, and I think Addie Herman is gonna win again. Now, Jay Lewis broke his ankle, so he had to withdraw from both Vegas finalists, assuming that he made it to this one, which, as you heard, I think he will. So we're actually picking 3 wild cards. So, the first one I'm going to be picking is David Campbell. He was saved by the wild card last year, and I think he'll be saved by it again. We got James McGrath as my second pick. I think he's really talented, and I really hope that he can make it to Vegas again. And now for my third wild card / alternate for Jay Lewis, I think it's going to be Xavier Danzler. He got his first buzzer, and I'm hoping that he can make it to Vegas. And now, for the safety pass race, I think it will be between Matt Bradley and Josiah Papel, and it's really a toss-up, but I'm actually going to pick Matt Bradley because Josiah Papel has had a bad luck with, races, so that's why I think Matt Bradley will win. My final thoughts are, I feel like there shouldn't be side-by-side racing, because the show is all ninja versus ninja. I mean, the leaderboard, you're trying to compete against ninjas. You're not just side-by-side racing with them. I don't like side-by-side racing, but I feel like this year's will be better. This year's semifinal will be better than last year's semifinals, mainly because this season 16 is much more stacked, and I feel like there are actually twice as many exciting races. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the semifinals, but that's all for now. So bye bye.